Hello, this is Philip Tyrone with 720 Credit Score. In this video, we're going to explain how to qualify for student loan forgiveness with private student loans, uniquely different than federal student loans. Enjoy. Okay, Ken, this is section 2 of our video series on student loan forgiveness. And how do people qualify for student loans? We just did this video on how to qualify for federal student loans. We talked about the distinction between actual federal student loans or commercial federal loans and why those don't qualify, but also how to qualify for student loan forgiveness even if you don't qualify by the government. I want to talk about private student loans because private student loans, we've all seen these commercials where it's like, hey, get this degree in XYZ online or whatever it is. And it's almost like I can get a degree that at online. It doesn't make sense. And there's many people out there, I've heard it from our clients at 720 Credit Score, where they just feel like sold. They feel like taken advantage by these private student loan companies. And I want to talk about how to qualify for forgiveness with private student loans, because most people with private student loans think they don't qualify for the Biden inheritance plan, and that's not the case, right?
Yeah. So what's going on with private student loans is that over the last 20 years, exactly what you said is correct, Phil, where there have been a lot of these for-profit schools that have come out of the woodwork, really. I mean, they propagated very quickly and they made big promises and they didn't fulfill the promises. Yeah. So you had these promises of lucrative careers after getting, these certain certificates. A lot of times they weren't even degrees, right? They were just these, certificates of completion of a certain program. And so there are a lot of lawsuits out there. There are a lot of programs out there to help people who went to those schools to receive some forgiveness. If some of those schools did give some federal loans, in those cases, most of those schools have now been part of these lawsuits and settlements where the federal loans will be either canceled, forgiven, or you can apply to have them reduced. But if the loans are a mix of federal and private, or maybe all private, then there are certainly options on the private loans as well to deal with that debt, particularly if there was no benefit obtained from the education, right? That's very common with
give us an example of what that would look like. I mean, what are some of these private student loans you've seen?
Yeah, so a few of the colleges, the Carrington colleges, ITT, a lot of these culinary schools were schools that were doing that, making those types of promises. And so there are two ways that really that we can approach those private student loans that may still exist. And that would be, one is just going to the lender and just stating that we feel like the loan was given under false pretenses. Fraudulent misrepresentations is the legal term, right? There were misrepresentations made which equate to fraud, and that we want to settle. So we want to pay a reduced balance, sometimes a very reduced balance on the student loan. And a lot of times those lenders, recognizing the bad acts that these schools engaged in, are very willing to negotiate, settle, reduce those balances significantly. And the other option is to deal with those private student loans through a bankruptcy discharge, which there's a couple different ways that could go as well.
So let's unpack both of them. So first of all, someone listening, what's an average private student loan that you've seen price cut, debt wise?
They can really range a lot of times. If someone has obtained private loans to go to to get post-secondary education, a graduate degree, even a medical or degree, or veterinarian degree or something like that, they can be $200,000 or more. But we see a lot of them for these certificate type programs that we were just discussing that are $10,000, $15,000, $5,000, $20,000.
Okay.
A lot of smaller ones that that are called student loans by the school, but really actually may not truly be student loans.
So let's say you got a $15,000-$20,000 student loan from someone that just went through. They don't, I mean, they're listening to this and they're like, wow, maybe it sounds like me or my friend or my daughter or whatever, right?
Mhm.
So with the first aspect, you go to studentloanrelief.us, right? They set up a free consultation with you. You analyze it and you're looking at it and saying, um, yes, I want to take you on as a client. Keep in mind, for those who missed the first video, if you get taken on by Neely Law, if you do not save money, you pay nothing. So this is a total win-win. Like you're absolutely going to win or they're not. This is why they do this interview process. So it's a free consultation, studentloanrelief.us. And in this first example, you're basically going to retain them as a client and then contact this company and say, look, for the following reasons, X, Y, Z, we feel this is unfair, fraudulent, whatever words you use. And you may get lucky, right? You may get people that say, firms that come back and say, okay, we agree. Or well, what's that like? What happens?
Yeah, a lot of times they want to know, well, can your client afford to pay? Because that might change also our decision on this student loan. And so we're looking for both, maybe misrepresentations by school or lack of benefit from school, but also maybe some difficulty paying. I'll tell you though that it's pretty easy for us to show that there would be some difficulty to pay, even for our clients that have decent incomes or good incomes. There's always a way for us to kind of demonstrate some hardship in making that payment. And I would add to your earlier point, Phil, that if you don't, if we don't get a benefit for you, we don't charge. I would also say, even if we can't necessarily help you, we say, look, this just doesn't quite fit into the model of how we can help you. We will always give you benefit. We will give you some education, some tips, some pointers. We'll point you in the right direction. We'll help you get to the resources that will help you, because we recognize that you're taking maybe 30 minutes or 45 minutes of your time to talk to us, and we appreciate that, and we want to make sure that you walk away grateful for the time spent, right? Even if we can't assist you. So
well, that's the type of
person. There's no risk in talking to us. If we can help you, there will be no financial risk. If we can't help you, we will still give you some knowledge and information to help you on your way.
Thank you, Ken. I know that to be true of you of the last 10 years. So that's option number one. Okay. And let's just say they push back and they're like, they push and they're like, no, we're not interested in giving relief to this borrower. The option two, what's the option two through bankruptcy?
Yeah, so if bankruptcy makes sense, and sometimes the bankruptcy there may be other debt in addition to the private student loans, right? There may be a large amount of credit card debt, or maybe an old car repossession, or an old apartment eviction, or something like that has been lingering, hanging over the client, our potential client's head. And so if it makes sense to file bankruptcy, or if the student loan is large enough that it makes sense to file bankruptcy, maybe even just to deal with the student loan itself, then we can file bankruptcy. We can then approach the private student loan lender. And there are two different ways, I mentioned two different ways that lawsuit against the private student loan lender can go. One is we make the claim in many situations that the loan isn't even truly a student loan under the definition in the bankruptcy code, in the bankruptcy law. So the bankruptcy law has a very specific definition for what a student loan is. It has to meet certain internal revenue service definition, right? That's just very narrow definition. And a lot of lenders out there, they just say, hey, we gave you a student loan. They say that because they know if they call it a student loan, most people will believe that can't be discharged in bankruptcy.
Right. Yeah.
But the problem is they don't give you all the information, or they're not willing to share that there are actually many loans out there that were given for the sake of going to school, but they're not necessarily student loans under the bankruptcy code definition of student loans. So if that's the case and we make that claim, many times that private student loan lender won't even fight the lawsuit. They just say, you're right, we're not really a student loan, and the whole loan goes away. The other option is if it is a qualified true student loan under the definition in the bankruptcy code, then we go through a process of just demonstrating a couple things. One, we can go back and we could say, hey, there were misrepresentations, there were problems with the way this loan was given, or it would be a hardship. The words the bankruptcy code uses is undue hardship. It would be an undue hardship for our client to have to pay this whole student loan. So we seek then a discharge, a full or partial discharge of the student loan. And the success rate with private student loans is very high. It's even higher than with federal loans, and it's already high with federal loans. So if you think about it, the private student loan lenders, they have to be able to it has to make financial sense to fight us in court. And a lot of times it doesn't make financial sense to fight us in court. If it's a $20,000 private student loan, why would they spend $20,000 in legal fees? Because even if they win, they still only break even, right? And that's if the loan is paid back sometime in the future, which the prospects that it might not ever be paid back are high. So with that with that consideration, they generally will negotiate very early on with us.
I mean, really, if anyone listening to this has a private student loan, or you have a friend or family member with a private student loan, like, you have to sign up for this free consultation. I mean, you have it, studentloanrelief.us, because if you can get this done without bankruptcy, I mean, it is the easiest. I mean, this is like, how long does this take? 90 days? Like, well, how long does this process take? I mean,
if we're able to do it through a debt settlement process, and not have to do bankruptcy, then usually within just a few months, we will have an answer one way or the other. Usually the answer is a positive, great one for our clients. But I mean, you said in
the last video, like a 99% success rate. I mean, is that with the same with student loans?
Yeah, I think I'd say it's even higher with our private student loans than with the federal student loans, but together it approaches 100%. Right?
It truly is shocking that this has not been picked up by the media. This isn't everywhere, right? I mean, you hear everything about the $10,000 federal student loan, but some of those loans are legitimate and people are using them to their benefit and the benefit of our society.
Yeah.
These private student loans, when they're not really a student loan, but they're saying the student loan, it's manipulation, it's gray area. I mean, this is fantastic service. Okay, so that's the first thing. If it's not, if it is an actual student loan and you go through bankruptcy, bankruptcy can seem like an extreme step. But as you and I know, because we deal with this all the time, this is very normal. I mean, bankruptcy, if someone knew that they can, like, we have clients that file for bankruptcy with $5,000 or $10,000 of credit card debt, right? I mean, it's easy once you get rid of your debt and you get the collection agencies stop calling you. You can actually rebuild your credit fast. Typically, I mean, I know that's what I do. 720 credit score in 12 to 24 months, and you start rebuilding your entire life without all the debt. So speak to that a little bit, Ken, about these people that are like, oh my gosh, like, I would never file bankruptcy to get rid of my those student loans.
Yeah. So it boils down to, first of all, sometimes there's a little bit of a benefit that can be gained on other types of debts. As I mentioned just a minute ago, there may be some credit card debts or some other just kind of old debts hanging over our potential client's head. And if that's the case, that reinforces a potential decision to file bankruptcy as a good decision. But even if it's only the student loans, and we're not able to negotiate out before bankruptcy, we're not able to negotiate a settlement that's affordable for our client, get that balance reduced so low that it's just very simple to make maybe some small payments. If we're not able to do that, then often a bankruptcy is an option to completely eliminate the private student loan. So it can be, a bankruptcy can be filed even if student loans are the only debts. So it's not common to do that, but it is possible to do that. if the circumstances are right. And particularly when we're dealing with some of these what we call non-qualified student loans, the student loans that are not really student loans under the bankruptcy code. Those are, those are great debts to be able to eliminate in a bankruptcy because we have the winning legal argument, right? We have a superior legal argument to those lenders, and such a superior legal argument that sometimes they don't even fight us.
Yeah.
They just put their hands up and say, yeah, you won. We're not really a student loan. So
can also speak about the people that may have filed bankruptcy a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. You can file under that bankruptcy. You don't have to refile, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Here's what I would say to anyone that has filed a bankruptcy in the last 5 years and has any remaining student loans. Just please talk to us, because in almost every case, there's something we can do to help you. So, and the fee for us to do that is always only a percentage of what we save you. So if we save you nothing, the fee is nothing. If we save you $10,000, the fee is just a small percentage of the $10,000. So it's always worth talking to us, because if some of those loans are, say, like these boot camp loans. Hey, I went to this 30-day boot camp and I got this technical certification. And I did my bankruptcy, but I still owe this boot camp loan of, $15,000. Often it takes no more than a few letters by us, a few phone calls by us, maybe filing a lawsuit by us, but letting that lender know that, hey, we recognize that that's not really a student loan under the bankruptcy code, and then we can get rid of it for you so that you get the full benefit of your bankruptcy, right? That's really what it boils down to. What it boils down to is I love helping people get out of debt and get a fresh start, but I was frustrated that sometimes the fresh start wasn't truly a fresh start because there were still large student loans left after the bankruptcy. So we started looking for ways to deal with those, to tack those student loans as debts that should be discharged, and try to help our clients get a true fresh start, or at least closer to a true fresh start than they would have without that help.
Well, that's fantastic. And studentloanrelief.us. For a free consultation, you don't save money, you pay nothing. On this next video, we're going to talk about how student loan relief impacts your credit score. Stay tuned and watch the next video.